Hello, Engineering Management 500 and Professor Gillis, good afternoon to you. I will be presenting on Business 2010, Mapping the New Commercial Landscape by Ian Pearson and Michael Lyons. A quick outline of what I will be presenting. I'm going to be talking about some key points I got at a Pearson and Lyons Business 2010 presentation with a specific focus on the advances in personal computers. Such as technological advances through the ages, how computers impact business workflow, and where I believe the technology will be heading and how businesses will react to that, as well as some key points that I got out of the actual Business 2010 presentation, such as how businesses must adapt to these changes in technology, how technology will drive the restructure and business management in the future, and Pearson and Lyon's discussion on nomadic versus static workflow. First, the technological advances of personal computers. So for a vast majority of human existence, it was safe to assume that the world in which you died would look pretty much the same as the one that you were born in. However, this is no longer the case. Many futurists say that we won't experience 100 years of progress in the 21st century, such as how we experienced it in past centuries, and instead we'll be experiencing more along the lines of about 20,000 years of technological advances in this century. You can just think about how much things have changed in just the past 10 years with wireless internet, smartphones, Facebook, Twitter. All these new technological advances are vastly different than what we saw only a decade ago. And if you think about this, it'll differ vastly from what we'll experience in 2025 or even 2100. So now let's consider the advances we've seen in just personal computers over the years. So back in the 50s, computers took up about the size of like a room or an entire building, as you can see in the picture to the left. Now the computers that we carry in our pockets, in our cell phones, are 1,000,000 times cheaper than that computer and 1,000 times more powerful. That's effectively a billion-fold increase in the price performance in just a few decades of technological advances. Now, if we look at computer uses over the past few decades, we can see that there's almost 87% of households in the US with a personal computer in the actual home. Companies are following the same trend. Back in 2003, when Pearson and Lyons wrote their Business 2010 presentation and book and discussion, over half the workforce used a computer at their job. There's about 77 million persons that used a computer at work, which is about 55% of the total employment. And this number has only increased in the past decade. Moving to some of Pearson and Lyon's key points, they explain how, as technology develops, companies must develop and adapt to these changes, or else they will be left behind by the other companies. They explain how new companies will emerge more quickly to fill in the void of these companies that aren't adapting. They state also that technology drives business and it's not the other way around. We've already seen this in the past few years, just as how companies have become more electronic, more non-physical, rather than in the past where we were more physical with, say, just a pen and paper. New technology will allow workers to innovate more freely, and business will have to adapt to how to structure their organization as these technologies appear. The forefront of this change, I believe, will be the advance in personal computers. Technology is the future, as we've seen, and the advance in computers, I believe, will pave the way. Reading Pearson and Lyon's presentation only establishes fact. We as humans and businesses around the world are going to have to adapt to new computers and new advances in this technology. I believe that computers, they're not going away, and they're just going to be relied on now more than ever. Computers are going to continue to shrink in size. Perhaps the cell phone and the computer will become one and the same, and we'll be able to present in a work type atmosphere just from our phones. And then we'll also be able to use it commercially for personal use as well. maybe perhaps we will have computers integrated into eyewear, so we don't have to even hold anything in our hands, and that we'll see what we see on our screens just on the back of our eyewear. And even further, perhaps we will get hologram conferencing in the future, so that we can communicate in meetings with more than just our voices. And I'm sure that many of you in the class, as well as you, Professor Gillis, have know that in meetings nowadays, it's usually just a Skype meeting or a WebEx meeting where we either present our screen and communicate, or we just are talking with just our voices to either suppliers or to other people in our company. These ideas made me think of how technology is going to evolve the workplace to become more on the go. So Pearson and Lyons also mentioned how they believe the future is moving more towards a nomadic workflow rather than a static workflow, and I believe this is a very evident fact. So static workflow is more stationary and slow changing, such as manufacturing, which takes place in a single place. Nomadic workflow is work done on the move and can be accomplished anywhere in the world, such as R&D or innovation or sales. Excuse me. I believe that as personal computer technology advances, nomadic working will become the norm. We're already seeing this today in the amount of jobs that are able to work from your home or or remotely. As well as being able to manage your own life better, businesses will be able to manage their global agendas better. We are already working with those around the world in our jobs that we hold today. And in the future, who's to say that our computers will not be able to translate with us, thus improving workflow even more by cutting out this language barrier that we have. This incorporated with the technology that we already have and that of which is to come will allow us to be around the world at any time that we need. So in conclusion, I believe that we are moving into an age where machines will continue to have a bigger role in the lives of humans and businesses. Both will need to adapt in order to survive. Pearson and Lyons bring up some valuable points of how technology will bring a switch from static to nomadic workflow. And overall, I believe we are going down a path to an end goal, which is virtual business. This is basically we're going to be able to work with whoever in the world and be able to remotely manage our companies through the cyberspace. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.